So today we will continue what we discussed last time around the software lifecycle. And we will be starting with one of the very first steps in software lifecycle, which is the project management. So this lecture is going to give you like an idea and let's say a theoretical foundation and all the basics that are needed. So for the project, you are going to find like the needed knowledge that you will need to put actually in practice, okay? And so the project is basically will be kind of about choosing the software that you want. So you're going to choose any software that you want to implement during the whole semester with your teams. And so you would need to go through all the steps of the software lifecycle as discussed, from collecting requirements, from doing the design, the implementation, testing, and quality assessment, code review, and so on. So you need to go through the whole software lifecycle. In between, you find me each time sharing that knowledge or that theoretical knowledge that is going to help you and guide you during that process. Also, you will find me sharing some practices to make sure that you are learning the content of these videos. It's not only about with the hands-on experience, but there will be also some assignments and practices. Okay, in this chapter, mainly we will be covering different aspects regarding project management, including defining what do you mean by project management in general, and what we go through all the steps of the project management. We are going to go through them, including covering some techniques on how you can actually design the schedule of your project, how you can probably estimate how much it will take time to actually finish the project, and what will be the estimate that I can make around how early I can finish a specific task and how early can we finish the project itself, or what would be the worst expectation to finish any of the project, or so we will be going through all of these steps during today's lecture. There will be two separate videos mainly. In this one, I am going to cover context or things related to project management, like teams, planning, reviewing, and quality, also activities. And in the next video, we are going to discuss about scheduling, okay? So, as many of you probably know, project management is very important because it is in general connected to how much profit the company could make out of projects done with customers. So it's all about money. So basically, any company want to increase the profit, right? So for that reason, it's very important to optimize the use of resources. And when we talk about resources in software companies, we are in general talking about developers, about programmers, and these programmers and developers are mainly involved in the project actively. And let's ask, how can I optimize the use of these resources of programmers and developers in my company, okay? And anyway, that they can, I need to make sure that they can maximize the productivity and they must meet the deadlines. And also, I must also be careful about reducing the budget as much as possible. This is the very important point. So this is one of the very first steps when we are trying to start any new software project, okay? And it's very important to pay attention to this step. It is a way that we can optimize to use resources and make as much profit as possible to the company, as I'm mentioning. So during this step, the project management phase will enable to estimate some unrealistic goals and objectives. For example, if you don't have enough programmers, let's say, and you need to have programmers that are most of the time, or let's say all the time, available to work on the project, in case that you might not have this resource. So you may probably decide to give a reasonable timeline. So you will consider how many team members, I would say developer, the role of developers. And so if you are having 2 only, it's not the same like you are having 10. So in this case, you need to make sure that like you meet the timeline given the resources that you have, because the customer, you need to be clear with him. You need to tell him what would be realistic deadline that like they would expect from you, okay? And also it will help to have better control of the problem. It enables us like to change the requirements over time with putting a lot of burden on people, and also dealing with any lack of support or extra costs, and that extra cost for sure is going like to be like making some problems. So we need to arrange everything accordingly from the very beginning, okay? So this is the key idea. And so having this big picture about the whole project is very important in general, okay? And in order to estimate the cost of the project, and like there are many challenges, it's not like easy, many challenges that are associated with the project management itself. And because it's very hard, especially when we talk about software project, to estimate the technical like skills of people. So you sometimes will think that this programmer is going to do it within 1 week. But if this programmer is overqualified or well qualified, he can finish the task within 3 days, for example. But the problem, mainly that programmer or developer is not enough, do not have that enough skills. So in this case, what will happen? It's going to make some problems and delays. And so when we talk about technical skills, we mean that we need to probably estimate the programming skills, like I'm mentioning, of your team member or people. And they're also design skills because they are very important, in addition to their testing skills, because mainly we need for these 3 phases. So all of these skills are important, but at the same time, it depends on people's experience, okay? And they are, in general, very subjective to estimate, and this is the core, I would say, problem. Also, there is another challenge when we do project management. It's how can we assign the right people to work on the project based on their expertise. And so mainly you can find, if like we are going to work on some project, we need to know each other very well, and we need to understand the strength point for each of us, because sometimes we may assign wrong people to some tasks, okay? So this is a very important point, and that probably you are not knowledgeable about. Like you need to know if someone mainly is not knowledgeable about the programming language that you are going to use in your in your project. So that may even create some delays. And in this case, people probably need to get some extra trainings or like some more efforts, okay, extra work. So now this is mainly the summary of what I was just saying right now. There must be like kind of realistic goals. We need to make sure if something unrealistic or some objectives that could not be like realized, that must be like, I would say an example again. You'll have the freedom to choose a project you're going to work about. So make sure that the project you're choosing is it's like easy to get it done, because we can have big dreams that at the end can end up with failure. We cannot have that in the real life. So you need to make sure that you manage and control all the problems. Like probably if you are, this is mainly the management thing. There is a team leader, for example, is going to coordinate, is going to manage, all the members are going to manage their own tasks, and then we are going to collaborate. Also, if like you have chosen your project, make sure that it's not like something which is static that will never like get changed. You need to be kind of flexible, changing the requirements, and also must be very careful in between about some very important, I would say, requirements, like for example, the delays, the costs. You need to take care about the final user, for example, or even you take care of if it's within the class project, you take care that you need to deliver that on time. So it's not like after the semester is ending and I'm submitting the grading, you're sending me your project. No, we need to make sure that things are happening on time, and we need to start this amazing journey. So we are going to work on that together. Okay. As I'm mentioning also about team members, we need to be discussing a lot to understand if you have some expertise at some point, you need to highlight. If you are strong in some, you have some technical, I would say, strengths. For example, you're strong in programming, you're strong in math, you're strong in writing, you're strong in designing. So you need to show that to your colleagues, so you guys understand what technical skills each of you can have. And I given you the start flexibility to choose your team members, because I know that wrong members can make problem, but at the end we need to have this done, and we are finally setting the projects. So we need to work hard to make it happen. You're going to create your own software engineering project, and so you need to think that it's kind of a real project. You think about your customer, their needs, and all the things that we're going to discuss so far. Okay, so if you want to define project management now, we can define it in this slide as simple as this definition. So it is project management could be considered as a way to organize and manage different resources. I would say resources could be managed in such way that the project is completed within the defined scope, defined quality, and on time especially, and with cost constraints. So you can see here that we have to deal with the trade-off multiple conflicting objectives, because quality is there, but if I don't have enough time, you would say how I will make it. The cost, you don't have that enough resources or financial, I would say, resources, and you will probably need something to get paid for yours. No, then you will say how. So all these objectives are conflicting, but the successful team or group are those who are going to manage all this, and this is where project managements come. Okay, we must deal with the trade-off of all these conflicting objectives. How can we reduce the budget, but at the same time, for example, still meet the high quality standards expected by the customers or whoever is going to use your software. Okay, so time management is very important. Cost management even is more important. Also, we have quality. So quality management is very important also. We don't want to meet deadlines with low quality, because we may lose our customer, and in the future, probably they will not be willing to work with you or with us. Okay. Another point is that human resource management is a very important point, especially when we need to kind of a quick hiring people. We need to do probably some turnover between teams in order to meet deadlines and so on. Okay. And then also the communication is very important. Communication management, I would say, it could be as well as very important, especially in terms of communicating with your customer, communicating with your team, and also communicating with executives. Okay, so to make sure that everything is on track, because as you know, for companies in general, especially when we talk about software development companies, you have multiple stakeholders involved. You have managers, you can have, or you must have programmers, and also you will have designers, you will have executives. So there are multiple stakeholders, and I mean by stakeholders, the people involved in the project, okay? And that are involved in general, okay? So you need to make them communicate, and the communication here is the key so that everyone stays at the same time. Because we will see later that it's not like everyone speaking or understanding the same, I would say, language. So sometimes I can talk on some technical, I mentioned some technical words which are from my own background. If I'm talking to someone probably from a different background, they may not understand what I'm talking about. So we will talk about this, and communication is a key point, okay? And finally, one important aspect probably is risk management, okay? So we have to manage the risk management. How could we optimize the risk? Because sometimes you may probably miss some deadlines. How we can estimate how much would be actually the delay, and life, it's all some unpredictable or unexpected events can happen, and they can lead to missing the deadline. But in this case, we must not like lose hope, or no, we must kind of try to have some backup plans, try to not make that process delay. And so if, for example, like for example, it's very important to talk about prediction. You need to predict or what can happen probably. In the next lecture, we can discuss this mainly in more details, how to use data in order to predict how much time is required, for example, to finish a software project. It could be based on, like, for example, estimation of the number of requirements, their complexities, and so on. So that's part of the risk management in general, and we're going to dive into this in more details. But in summary, like, you need to avoid scope. Like, you need to make sure that your project is completed on time, because time is very important. You need to make sure that project completeness is in budget also. You need to ensure that the project like maintains high quality in all aspects, okay? So you try to manage all this together. You need to ensure that the project is communicated to all stakeholders, like you make sure that everyone is understanding what you mean, and you need to identify and manage the risk, cost, completeness, like resources by the end, how much is going to be the final cost like of your project, okay? So when we talk about the teams, and especially for software projects, these teams are the combination in general of multiple programmers who are working towards some goal, okay? All of them must have the same goal at the end in general, which is kind of meeting deadlines, implementing specific software requirements, and like making things ready on time, and like respecting all the requirements I was mentioning just now. And also we have other entities that are involved, okay, in the team. So which are more related mainly to the people who are working more on the work product, which means documentation. Okay, for example, we have another like involved part, which is participants who could be testers of your system. We would also have schedule and planning involved in order to make sure that everything is on track. And we have a list of tasks that will be given to specific people who are part of the team. Okay, so mainly the team consists of participants working on the same activity or task, same goals. Also from developers like perspective, we have what we call work product, okay? And work products mainly documents, codes, model, test plan, any item produced in the course of a project, okay? And work products produced for the client are called at the end final deliverables, okay? So you will hear about the word deliverables. So they are the work products that are produced for the client. And now also we have the schedule. When working on the project, you should like accomplish that with respect to the schedule. The task that you are considering, probably you need to work to have some your work performed by the project participant in order to create the final like work product. And also you have your participant. So participant, as I'm just mentioning, they are any person who can contribute to the work. Okay, so mainly this is what the team is. Okay, and by the way, just to let you know, this kind of diagram that I am using here to illustrate like the composition of this team, like mainly this, it means that team is, we read it like this, team is composed like of these and these and these and these. Okay, so this is for the team, and now we need to make sure that we have the right people, as I'm mentioning, with the right skills, because it makes huge difference. So typically we have roles that are assigned to different participants. Some of them, they are programmers who are also called developers. Some others, they are more like liaison, we say, people who are connecting, I would say, different developers and different teams. We have also managers, and who the managers mainly are, I would say, leaders, and who are like leading the different teams. And sometimes you may need to work with some consultants or who actually provide some specific services, okay, for every specific task. Sometimes we need to this their expertise probably for from outside the company, or from, we can contact some like consultant in this case. Okay, now what we have else is we have for the management step. Now let me focus on the management step in general. Different project managers, and they are involved with the team leaders, let's say, and this consultants in general would be like from domains, or I would say they are the specialists. And sometimes, like, I would say it's very rare to find like somebody, for example, let's say we want at some point to write code with Cobalt. Cobalt here, it's like parametric based computer aid design, I would say. It's used for 3D modeling and programming. But I would say you might not have that people who are having enough knowledge in this like I would say particular skill. What to do in this case? And so what happens is that we may need somebody who knows that specific programming language, but as we don't, so we don't need to hire someone because maybe this task does not require a full-time employee in the company. So what we do in this case, we may need to hire as just consulting for a specific period of time, okay? So this is the main idea. And in general, for any project management, we have to define the scope, which is very important, and which is mainly related to the requirements. And so we need to define also the resources. So resources mainly, they are related to budget, to cost, and finally, we need to discuss or highlight, or I would say finalize even, the right schedule and within what exact frame of time that the project is going to be accomplished. Mainly in the heart of all this, I would say quality is central in all of this, in order to make sure that we are meeting high quality standards. So like in general, the scope is mainly, I would say, focusing on functionalities, and we are going to see like the requirements. You need to meet the user requirements, how you are going to understand that, we make sure that there is no misunderstandings and so on. At the same time, the resources are very important. You must be like based on the number of programs that you currently have. You don't design like or think that only with 2 programmers you can reach to that quality if your project needs more. So here it depends on the resources mapping with your like need, okay? And this is very important to ensure the quality. And the last point is the schedule or time, okay? So we have to like deliver everything, I would say, in we meet the deadline, okay? So all this process, I would say, or as you see, triangle, is actually around quality in general. in order to meet high quality standards to satisfy customer. But in case, like I would say, one of these points is moving here or there, so this triangle is not going to have the perfect shape. So this is going to impact your quality. Okay, so this is what I just wanted to illustrate in this slide. Okay, so okay, the work must be done, and all this we were discussing so far. Okay, and this is what I was mentioning. So any distortion in this iron triangle can lead to a project cancellation, even like if your project, you'll figure out that it's over budget or it's kind of behind schedule. So it's going to maybe like not deliver it in case, or risk of late delivery and so on. So all these problems can happen if you mismanage your project. So in this video, mainly we covered project management. So next video, we are going to discuss about like scheduling within your software project. Okay, thank you very much. And if you have any questions, never hesitate to contact me, send me an email or messages through Blackboard. I encourage like sending discussion on Discord so everyone can engage, everyone can answer. If I answer someone, others also probably can learn from my answer or from your questions or sometimes from your answers as well. So try to be active, and thank you so much.